What's up everybody? Today we'll be talking about the basic care for a leopard gecko. Leopard geckos, also called Leos, are generally easy to care for. They do not require a lot of cage maintenance, but you should still give their environment the attention it needs. Meaning, clean out the waste and poop every other day or just whenever you get the chance. Leopard geckos are nocturnal, ground-dwelling creatures, which means they are most active at night. Like most reptiles, leopard geckos are solitary creatures for the most part, meaning they do not feel lonely or desire the company of other geckos. Now let's talk about the temperament of leopard geckos. They do not tend to bite and are usually slow moving. Besides mine, she's a freaking beast.
Watch this. Boom, she freaking teleported.
They are usually docile creatures and generally easy to tame. They are also known to be very vocal. Usually this happens when they are hungry and will keep squeaking until you feed them. Now let's talk a little about the housing requirements for leopard geckos. A 10-gallon tank is the minimum size for one leopard gecko, but bigger is usually preferable. Old fish tanks work very well for this. Never keep them with other leopard geckos or any other animal. They need to be kept alone unless you are trying to breed a male and a female. But even then, should only be kept together for short periods of time and under strict supervision. These lizards are a desert species, meaning they do not need a high humid environment. That being said, if the humidity drops below 20%, your gecko will have trouble during the shedding process, which can ultimately lead to health problems. So try to keep that humidity level around 30 to 40%. You can achieve this by regular misting and using a humidity gauge to maintain proper levels. If you are worried about being able to maintain the humidity level, then you can use a hide with sphagnum moss inside of it. Mist the sphagnum moss every day if you can, or every other day works too. Your gecko will use it whenever it needs to. You'll most likely see it camp out the whole time during the shedding process though. Another important thing is make sure your gecko is not exposed to any drafts. So try to place the terrarium away from any doors or windows. Now for temperature, as we know, leopard geckos are cold-blooded creatures. So they use the ambient temperature to regulate their own bodies, meaning they need a range of temperature throughout the terrarium, also called thermal gradient, so that they can adjust their own body warmth. For daytime, you should try to achieve a basking spot from 85 to 88 degrees Fahrenheit, with the thermal gradient down to about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. This can be done by using things such as ceramic heat emitters, heat tape, or even a heating pad. At night, the temperature can drop to a range of 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, but your gecko should still have a place to go and warm up if need be. My preference to achieve this thermal gradient is to use a heat mat under a section of your terrarium with the hide above it. Also have another hide on the opposite side of your terrarium for him to go to whenever he needs to. Now for lighting, even though leopard geckos are nocturnal, meaning they are most active during the night, they are also active during dawn and dusk. They do get UV exposure during that time. A small amount of UVA and UVB can go a long way to keeping your leopard gecko healthy, and will drastically reduce the risk of metabolic bone disease. You will also need an incandescent heat bulb on for 10 to 12 hours a day to mimic the sunlight. If you are using a ceramic heat emitter for your heat source, then you'll need an additional UVA, UVB, and incandescent heat bulb. A lot of times the UVB and incandescent heat bulb are one and the same, but make sure to double check to see if the heat bulb emits UVB before your purchase. Substrate can be a very controversial topic when it comes to leopard geckos. Many people use reptile carpet, which can harbor bacteria and can ultimately lead to your leopard gecko getting very sick, costing you a trip to the vet. Some good options include paper towel, large stone slate, ceramic tile, or you can even use newspaper. Some other good options, but can be a little bit controversial when using, are sand, large river stones, excavator clay, and organic soil. Now if you do decide using one of these, I would recommend mixing it with other things. For example, I use a substrate mix of 40% sand, 30% organic soil, 20% cocoa fiber, and 10% sphagnum moss. Now, the only reason I use a so-called controversial substrate is because I have a bioactive setup for my Leo. So if you aren't planning to have plants in your enclosure, then I'd recommend using paper towels or even ceramic tiles. Overall, keeping a leopard gecko is very easy as long as you have the proper setup and consistently maintain it. Please like and subscribe if you got any good information out of this so I can continue making content for you guys. And I'll see you all later.